Welcome to the SUNY Child Protection Policies training. This is Module 4, which will cover the policy on mandatory reporting of child sexual abuse and the Child Protection Policy system-wide impact. Starting first with the policy on mandatory reporting and prevention of child sexual abuse. This is the mandatory reporting policy. This is the text of the policy, which I will read. Any employee or student of or volunteer for the State University of New York who witnesses or has reasonable cause to suspect any sexual abuse of a child occurring on state university property or while off campus during official state university business or university-sponsored events shall have an affirmative obligation to report such conduct to the relevant university police department immediately. Such report should include the names of the victim and assailant, if known, other identifying information about the victim and assailant, the location of the activity, and the nature of the activity. Upon receiving such a report, the applicable university police department shall promptly notify the Commissioner of University Police at SUNY System Administration, who shall report such incidents to the Chancellor for periodic reporting to the Board of Trustees. In addition, to aid in the prevention of crimes against children on property of the State University of New York and/or during official state university business and at events sponsored by the State University of New York, relevant employees should be trained on the identification of such crimes and proper notification requirements. Vendors, licensees, or others who are given permission to come onto campus or to use university facilities for events or activities that will include participation of children shall ensure that they have in place procedures for training, implementation of applicable pre-employment screening requirements, and reporting of child sexual abuse. For purposes of this policy, the applicable definitions of child sexual abuse are those used in the New York State Penal Law in Articles 130 and 263 and Section 260.10, and child is defined as an individual under the age of 17. The effect of this policy is to give university employees, students, and volunteers an affirmative duty to report child sexual abuse to the university police whenever such abuse occurs on state university property or whenever it occurs off university property during official university business or during university-sponsored events. The threshold for reporting is a reasonable cause to suspect. A reasonable cause to suspect is formed when, based on your rational observations and experience, you have a suspicion that a child is being sexually abused on SUNY property or off SUNY property during official SUNY business or at SUNY-sponsored events. This slide reiterates in graphic form the mandatory reporting requirement. All SUNY staff, students, and volunteers have an affirmative duty to report incidents of child sexual abuse occurring on SUNY property, as well as incidents occurring off SUNY property if the abuse occurs in connection with SUNY business or SUNY events. Note, however, that the term mandatory reporting, as used in the SUNY policy, is not the same as the reporting responsibilities of mandated reporters under New York State Social Services law, who are always required to report all forms of suspected child abuse wherever it occurs. When a report of child sexual abuse is made to the campus police, an investigation will commence. The campus university police department will promptly notify the Commissioner of University Police at SUNY System Administration. Such events will also be reported to the Chancellor and the Board of Trustees. So let's review the application of the mandatory reporting policy by looking at a few scenarios. Example number 1. A SUNY employee is at the grocery store and learns of child sexual abuse unrelated to SUNY. The employee is not obligated to report this instance of sexual abuse because it did not occur on university property and it did not occur in connection with SUNY business or a SUNY-sponsored event. Example number 2. A SUNY employee is at the grocery store and learns that child sexual abuse occurred during a SUNY-sponsored event. The employee has a duty to report the incident to the university police. Example number 3. A SUNY employee is participating in a campus-sponsored volunteer event that is held off campus. The employee learns that child sexual abuse occurred during this event. The employee has an affirmative duty to report under the SUNY policy. Under the mandatory reporting policy, campuses must train relevant employees to identify sexual abuse crimes and must also train employees on their obligation to report such abuse. In addition, third-party vendors and others using university facilities for activities involving children must have procedures in place to screen their employees, to train their employees, and procedures for reporting child sexual abuse. The campus local procedures required under the mandatory reporting policy are the following. Number 1, an affirmative duty for university students, employees, and volunteers to report instances of child sexual abuse. Number 2, training of employees on identification of sexual abuse crimes and the proper notification requirements. Number 3, ensure that third parties using university facilities for events and activities that will include participation by children have procedures in place aimed at preventing child sexual abuse. Now we will move to the SUNY Child Protection Policy, which was adopted by the SUNY Board of Trustees in June 2014. The SUNY policy statement is, the State University of New York is committed to protecting the safety and well-being of children who participate in university-related programs and activities, whether on or off campus, or utilize campus facilities for activities including, but not limited to, sports camps, academic and personal enrichment programs, and research studies. The policy requires that SUNY campuses and university affiliates implement procedures to promote the safety of children. The policy summary is, individuals must conduct themselves appropriately with children who participate in university-related programs and report instances or suspicion of physical or sexual abuse of children. In a nutshell, the Child Protection Policy requires appropriate conduct with children and reporting of instances or suspicion of child physical and sexual abuse. This concludes Module 4.